Welcome to the Explainer. So, you've definitely heard the term BRICS thrown around a lot lately. But what is it really? And more to the point, what's a country like South Africa doing in a club with some of the biggest economies on the planet? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today.
Just think about that for a second. This quote really gets to the heart of the whole thing. It's the difference between being told how the world works and actually having a say in making the rules. And that, my friends, is a huge shift.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big picture, then we'll lift the hood and see how this club actually works. After that, we'll zero in on South Africa's specific role, connect it all to your life, and then wrap up with what this means for the future.
Okay, first up, a world of many centers. You see, to really get BRICS, you have to understand the world it was born into. And let me tell you, the ground beneath our feet is definitely shifting. The key idea here is something called multipolarity. I know it sounds a little academic, but the concept is pretty simple. Instead of a world with one or two superpowers calling all the shots, we're moving to a system with many different centers of power, each with its own pull. And this lays it out perfectly. For decades, the global game was pretty clear-cut. A few established countries set the rules. What BRICS represents is this new emerging system where a whole lot more players get to have their say. The goal isn't to start a fight, but to find a new balance.
So, if it's a club, how does it actually work? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how these countries actually get together and make things happen. Okay, let's just bust a big myth right from the start. A lot of people hear BRICS and they immediately think of a military alliance, like NATO. Nope, not even close. The reality is that it's way more of a diplomatic club, a forum for these big economies to coordinate and get on the same page.
And how they make decisions is key. Everything is based on consensus, which means everybody has to agree. No one country can just steamroll the others. Now, does that make things move a bit slower? You bet. But it's all built on respect. And with new members coming in, the club is trying to be even more representative of the so-called Global South. So if all that diplomacy is the software of BRICS, then the new development bank is the hardware. This is the most real, tangible thing to come out of the group. It's the brick-and-mortar institution that shows they mean business.
So you might be thinking, why a new bank? Isn't that what the World Bank is for? Well, here's the difference. Loans from older institutions often came with a lot of, let's call it, political advice. The NDB's goal is to fund big infrastructure projects, but with way fewer strings attached.
And that brings us right back home. What is South Africa's role in all of this? Why are we sitting at a table with these economic giants? If you're just looking at the raw numbers, it's a fair question. By pure economic size, South Africa is the smallest of the original 5 members, by a long shot.
Which leads to the obvious question, right? Why are we there? What exactly do we bring to the party?
And here is the answer. It's not about the size of the economy, it's about the strategic location. South Africa is seen as the gateway to the entire African continent, a region with incredible economic potential. That gives us leverage and a voice that's much bigger than our GDP figures would suggest. Okay, this is all fascinating global politics, but let's bring it down to earth. How does any of this actually affect you, your family, your life? Let's connect the dots. Think about it like this. You wouldn't put all your life savings into one single stock, would you? Of course not. It's too risky. You diversify. Well, it's the same logic for a country. Relying on just one or two major partners is a huge gamble. BRICS is all about spreading that risk. And here's where it gets really real. That new development bank we talked about, its money can be used to fund projects that could literally help keep the lights on and get our ports and railways working better. We're talking about tangible fixes for problems that affect jobs and the cost of living. Here's another game changer. For years, if South Africa wanted to trade with, say, Brazil, we'd both have to convert our money to US dollars first. It's an extra step that adds costs. The BRICS plan is to trade directly in our own currencies. Cutting out that middleman makes our products cheaper and more competitive. Okay, let's zoom back out for our final point. We need to put BRICS in its proper place. Is this a revolution designed to tear down the old system? Well, it's actually a bit more nuanced than that. You see, the goal isn't necessarily to get rid of institutions like the IMF or the World Bank. It's about creating a plan B, an alternative. And honestly, a little bit of competition in the world of global finance might just be a healthy thing for everybody.
This phrase says it all. For decades, the global playing field hasn't been level. The scales have been tilted heavily in favor of a handful of established powers.
And that ultimately is the whole point. BRICS sees itself as a counterweight, a force to help push those scales back toward the middle, creating a more balanced system where more voices get heard. Which leaves us with the one big, lingering question. Is BRICS really a force for creating a more balanced and fair world for everyone, or is it simply the beginning of a new, more fractured world with different teams? That's the real cliffhanger, and the answer's going to shape the next chapter of our global story.